Anyway, I'm just gonna do my intro as you act weird. Hey everyone, it's Joyel and welcome back to my channel. So today, we are doing a highly requested video where basically I get to interview my parents for you guys and they're gonna answer some questions, highly requested questions. But of course, before we get started, please don't forget to click that subscriber button down below. Once we hit 40,000 subscribers, I'll be sending any one of you any product line of your choice. Are you looking to help alleviate your dry, shedding, or thinning afro texture hair and scalp? Well, Biddle Things has you covered. From their Biddle Scalp Therapy Oil to their amazing Biddle Butter, which has saved my ends countless times, your hair troubles are now behind you. They even have your cuticles covered with their Biddle Cuticle Oil, which is now a staple in my everyday nail care. Natural, minimal, clean hair and scalp care products for everyday use. Check out their products at www.biddlethings.com and don't forget to follow them on Instagram at BiddleThings. I have a merch line now, which you guys can now find under each video, so if you're interested, go ahead and click on that. But let's get started.
You have to turn around. I have you on every day at work for 9 hours. 8 hours. All day, every day. Ads, the whole night. Yeah, I've been doing that ever since I knew about it. I didn't.
First question. This one is actually for Dad.
Ooh.
First question from Kristen. She says, how did your dad feel about having black daughters?
To be honest, didn't even think about it. They were just kids. And being black, they're black and white. I just thought them as kids. I'll be honest, it was not a big deal. Honestly. I mean, they're my kids. So I don't care if they're purple. Doesn't matter.
Next question. This one's from Jessica Janelle Jones. Has your dad ever washed, combed you and your sister's hair?
Wow, you're asking about how long ago was that? Like 20 years ago. I can't ever remember really doing the hair. I may have done it once or twice, maybe before school when they were little tiny. Other than that, I really had no contact with their hair other than looking at it.
I do remember that one time when Mom, I think, was when we lived in the townhouse, and Mom was gone for like a work trip, and Dad actually got up there. He was brushing our hair and trying. He had the hair grease out. He was trying. Well, so you know, hey,
I'm old.
he
paid attention. I forget about it.
This one's from iFoodTrail82, but she wants to know, how did they meet, and how did your parents feel about dating outside of their race?
Dad says I lured him in like this.
Oh, with the finger.
Yes. I had seen him at work. We met at work. And I'd seen him walking by, and I had some friends there who kept saying he was watching me.
Well. And
when I looked at him and I saw him, I said, the only thing he wants to do with me is hang me from the nearest tree.
Oh,
but
nice.
I found out otherwise. He was walking by my office door, and I had a Whataburger in my hand. And yes, I tried to get his attention, so I was doing this with a mouthful of Whataburger. I got up and I went to talk to him. He says, you want to go out Saturday? And I said, yes.
Is that how it happened, Dad?
How do women remember this? Yeah, you know, the hamburger and all that stuff. No, you're talking 30 plus years ago. Yeah, I guess it happened like that. It was at work, and she's gone, and yeah, it was really that easy. It really wasn't a big deal. Just asked her out.
So how did you guys feel about dating outside of your race?
I was conflicted at first because I wasn't sure how it would all be received, even though Uncle Stevie, his first wife, was white and had a beautiful little girl, Melanie. But he's the first one who truly pursued me. And
it was like a hunter.
He never asked me to help pay his rent or give him gas or anything else.
Why would a guy ask that?
You'd be surprised.
But yeah, he pursued me, and it was comfortable. It wasn't forced. It was just pretty cool.
Emanuela said, what a beautiful family, because I had a picture posted of us. She says, I know how it felt for your mom, but how did your dad prepare to bring black or half-black daughters or children of color into this world, especially after knowing the stigma that surrounds us?
Yeah. Again, this is a boring, repetitive answer. It was no big deal, and that's the truth. I never thought about it. Just from my knowledge of thinking way back then, I don't know. It just wasn't a big deal to me. They were pretty little girls, and that was pretty much the extent. And I really don't care, you know, about what anybody thinks. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And so there was no problems with it at all. It was great.
Mariah St. German asks, did your family ever get weird stares in public, and how did it make you feel? Like story of our lives, like.
Yeah, we still get weird stares.
Just let me jump in that. I am oblivious to all that. I know that sounds weird, but I never really saw it because I wasn't looking for it per se.
Well,
This is Mom. Mom's very aware. Women are more aware of that, I think, than guys are.
the women, black women, always had the hardest, most judgmental stares. White women were more amazed. There were some really the kind of why are you with him kind of looks. But when we were out with you and your sister, they were more, they looked at Dad, they looked at me, then they would look at you guys, and they're like, oh. And then they would pay attention to you guys and just, disregard us for the most part.
13 Rita Love asks, how did your parents explain to you and your sister that you were biracial?
I think that's what the mirror does.
I think that they beat us like some kids, like we've heard, like for example, like Halle Berry only identified as black, even though she's technically half white. And I know a lot of biracial people. I've even been told that I should just identify as black. But how did you explain that to Selena and I, that you are both white and black, which is something I clearly remember. I've never had issues with identifying as both,
because my first answer to that is you're a person. You happen to have a white parent and a black parent, but you foremost are a person, a human being. And it doesn't matter what you truly look like, you are due the respect of being a human being. And I do remember filling out those forms, and I would check both because, he's white, I'm black, you're both.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it was more of an impact on the girls, because I'll be honest, again, the same answer. It just never really came across my radar. I don't know why, it just didn't. I think it was more on them. Again, I can only raise them as your child. I don't, like I said, I don't care if they're aliens, you're going to raise them as your kids. I don't think identifying with one or the other, what does that actually mean? You're a human being. I mean, anyways, that's how I see things. I'm simple. So
when you guys started school, I was a little more aware and looking for issues in that regard from teachers, parents, and other children. Your teachers were pretty cool about it. That I do remember. That was never brought up. There were no issues. Some of the kids, only because of the hairstyle.
Oh, Octopus Head. I remember that name. Ask Julia. She knows. Julia's my best friend since kindergarten, in case you guys don't know.
Yes.
So I used to get called Octopus Head all the time. All the time.
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. That means you have 8 arms. I only have 2.
Bonita asks, can you ask your dad, do you think he would have done anything differently if he had had a biracial son?
Well, I don't know. That's hard to question. I don't think so, really. I mean, maybe other than pursue sports more. That's the only thing I can think of. But I don't know. No. I mean, they're kids. I mean, I never had girls before, obviously, because I was the youngest of 5 and there's 4 boys. So, but I don't know. No, I don't think so, because I treated the girls like boys. I just treated them like kids. So I didn't know any different. Basically.
Yeah, I think
pretty boring answers.
I think the reason they asked that is because, with the issue with the whole police brutality thing, mostly against black men, I think that was kind of their, how would you raise a son who would be seen as, a black man against that. But I kind of think Dad would probably still give the same answer, to be completely honest.
The same answer.
Do the right thing.
Exactly. That would be at most in both our minds, that you do the right thing. And if you find yourself in that situation, your first call is to Mom and Dad. And we will take care of it at that point. And hopefully whatever we've taught you or him as you're growing up is something you would do, use, and think about when you're an adult.
This name, I'm sorry, I'm butchering this name, but I think it says Jesus and Sophie. I believe that's what it says. She said, how did your parents make sure that you and your sister have a good self-esteem growing up, no matter what hurtful things people might say to you?
think
we
did.
love you, and doesn't matter what anybody else says or said. You are intelligent, you're beautiful, you're fun, and there are people who love you for who you are. These other people have no impact on your life whatsoever. But again, in a sense, those are just words, because words do hurt. That sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a bunch of BS. Words hurt.
Yeah.
To this day.
You know, probably did a poor job looking back, knowing what I know now. And even though you're in it when they were kids, I don't know, how I remember it, I always told them how pretty they are, how smart, you know, outwork them type of stuff. So I you know, on one hand, maybe I could have reinforced it more. On the other hand, I do recall saying those things. I still say those things today. So, you know, you do what you can, when you can, how you can, and yeah.
Their username is We Share the Same Affliction. Asked, what do your parents and me think of the one drop rule? I find that blacks are quick to claim mixed people, Halle Berry, Obama, Meghan Markle, the first black Clara, which is the ballet dancer that's going around for the Nutcracker, as black, but a mixed person's non-black side doesn't ever seem to have, to claim them. I mean, everyone calls Meghan Markle black, but nobody calls her white. Why do blacks always seem to claim them, but their other side doesn't? So what do you think of the one drop rule?
Well, let's go back a couple hundred years. Master, overseer, whoever who slept with a black slave, that child that was created was not, could not, and would not be a part of white society. Whites felt that, the mixing of races was just wrong, and did not want to have someone of confused heritage being aligned with them. So that's where the one drop rule came from. If you had one drop of unpure white blood or non-white blood in you, then you could not be white in any way, shape, or form. And as blacks, we have accepted, okay, you are one of us. And if you look, you've seen her sister who looks, they don't look very much alike. And honestly, they don't really look like either one of us in my eyes. They have their own identity. They've got a couple features here and there, but outside of that, Charmaine would definitely be more accepted as white, where Selena, she's been Puerto Rican.
Dominican.
Yes.
Pretty much everything under the sun, so.
Yes, but white. So, as the one drop rule being accepted in the black society, that's almost a given. But as time has gone on, things have changed. There are some out there who accept both their identity because they are both. And with time, I'm sure that'll change again.
What do you think about the one drop rule, Dad?
I thought you were talking about food that hit the floor and you picked it up. I'll be honest, I've never heard that term before. Never. I guess with this crazy social media stuff, it's so prevalent nowadays. Oh my gosh, there's so many interracial sports, movies, people on the street. So I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. You identify with what you are. I know, human, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's my thought on it.
Yeah. As for my thoughts, I have heard of it. I think it's been forced upon me even as a kid, where it was like, well, you're half black, you have to identify as just black. Or, the whole being shoved into one box thing. I'm not allowed to check white and black. I had to choose other or just black. I've literally had my answers erased by teachers and then put just black on my tests and stuff. But for me, my parents have always told me and my sister we're half black and half white. We're both. So for me, it always felt like I was abandoning half of myself, by just, if I was to just claim one side of myself. So, but I think with, why do blacks always seem to claim them, but their other side doesn't? I think it has to do with, maybe the distribution of your facial features, skin color, But I think because no one else would claim us, I think, the black community just kind of had open arms with that. I don't think they really had a choice either. It's like, where were these kids going to go? The first one we kind of already answered, so I'll read it, but we'll answer just the second part of it. That they asked, growing up, did you or your parents identify as black, white, or mixed/biracial? But the part that I think we'll answer is, do you think it would have been helpful or unhelpful for your parents to refer to you as just one race, be it black or white? Maybe I'll start and then you guys can kind of bounce off of that one. I think being bullied a lot in school has something to do with that. I never regretted being mixed, but what I hated was having being black being used against me, if that makes sense. There were times that I didn't hate being half black. I hated that people would use it to hurt me in some way. So there were times, yes, as a kid, I was like, maybe it would have been easier to just be all of one ethnicity, because then there wouldn't be any ammo to use against me, where it was like, or I never could really fit on either side. And again, people use that against me. You're too black for this, but you're too white for that.
Interesting.
So that's my take on that. But what do you guys feel? Do you feel like it would have been easier on Selena and I if you had just forced us to identify as one or the other? Or
when it comes to bullying, that has no racial.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna
It's across the board.
Everybody is bullied.
Whites bully whites, blacks bully blacks, Mexicans bully Mexicans. Bullying has no racial identification. As far as whether it been helpful to, no, I don't think so. Because then there would be, why are you denying this and why are you denying that? And that probably would have been more embarrassing than anything else, because you are both of us.
I don't know what it would mean if you identified one or the other. I don't know, other than a census form. Well, what does that mean? I don't know how it would help or hurt. I don't. It's neutral. We'll identify. Okay, I don't know.
I think picking up on the census thing, you're denying a whole new classification of people. They're not one or the other, and you shouldn't force somebody to be something that they are not, or deny them. So, honestly, I think I've seen now multiracial.
I think this question actually kind of ties into that too, but the next question is asking, do you think it's okay to make the distinction between being black and being biracial? And again, they said, for example, saying Obama is the first biracial/mixed president. Instead, we're saying he's the first black president. I think if you've been with my channel, you probably know that I've stated that I don't think there's anything wrong with making the distinction between a full black person and someone who's biracial, because let's be honest, one person is literally 50% of another ethnicity. I think with the issue, I think by not allowing biracial people to identify as biracial, you're not only doing I think you're harming either community, because we're not allowing ourselves to be represented as we are. By telling me that I should only represent myself as black, you're not allowing full black people to be represented correctly, and you're not allowing me to represent myself correctly. Therefore, erasing basically what a full black person looks like, and also misrepresenting what a biracial person is like. I have thought about how they labeled, going off the Obama thing, I think they should identify him as the first biracial president, because he is technically half white. I think that the first black president title should be held for someone who is full black. For me, yes, I think there's nothing wrong with making that distinction. I should be allowed to identify how I truly am.
I agree with that.
Being a goddess is asking, good evening. The questions I would like to ask your parents to answer are, 1, did they face a lot of problems before they had you and your sister? We'll kind of break this up. So the first question is, did you guys face a lot of problems before even having Selena and I being an interracial couple?
From my side of the family, well, basically my mom, she told me one day that she wanted to have an all brown one, meaning she wanted a full black grandchild, because like Uncle Stevie, Melanie is half, and then you two. When I actually told Steve that, and he was furious. why can't she just accept her grandchildren for who they are? Her grandchildren. We had just basically Nana was the only one who caused serious issues.
Personally, I can't think of ever anybody saying anything to me. Probably for obvious reasons, but there was no problem.
Not to get beat.
What's that?
Try not to get the beat down.
My parents were much older than her parents were. And my mom had already been deceased, and my dad had health problems. And my brothers and my sister, no, none. Actually, zero.
Interesting. So then they asked, did it get worse after having children? So did you find that after having biracial children that people would say things to you?
No.
No?
No.
Cool.
Nope.
And then is it different today than it was when you were younger? So do you think it's gotten worse? Do you think it's gotten better and not really a change? You know, how people interact or how people say things?
What?
You say you're owed some money for starting this all off?
Oh, I wasn't started, but definitely in the top 3, I think. No, it's so prevalent nowadays. Just look around. I mean, I don't know. It's not a big deal. I didn't realize all of this until Charmaine had her page. I really have never thought about any of this. This is all new to me. I'll be honest, I didn't know half of this what I know now. I've never had this conversation with her before, or her sister, in fact. So this is new to me, and I know I'm naive and like that. So this is new to me, but no, I'll just say no.
Weekend Vegan is asking, since this is a hair channel, what does your dad think about your natural hair?
I don't know. It was always natural. I don't think they wore wigs, so it was natural to me.
I think it was like no chemicals. Like I think this is probably the real first time I've really had to, like, I've really shown what my hair looks like without any chemicals on it.
Natural.
That's what they mean by natural.
Yeah, it's a huge afro. It was sort of different when I hadn't seen her for a while. So yeah, it's her hair. I mean, it's fine.
Steph Powell asked, was your mom, I think she's from England, so, was your mom culturally black when you were young, and is she now? And how did that affect you and your sister? So I guess I'll let you answer that first. She's like, I asked because although my mom is mixed, 3/4 Jamaican and 1/4 Scottish, she was far more British culturally, so although I am very in touch with my Jamaican heritage, my default is British. So.
Well, I was born and raised here in America, so culturally I am an American.
There is black culture though, like black American culture.
Black American culture, yeah. I can't deny who I am. I did introduce black culture in the sense that we are doctors, lawyers, scientists, astronauts, police, everything every other American can or should be.
So I guess how I could answer that question. And again, I've answered this question before in other videos, but when people ask me how was I culturally raised, what do I identify with, I say that I identify closer to white culture because that's how I was raised. I was raised in mostly white neighborhoods, white towns. But, Mom introduced, obviously our hair care was part of, black culture. You sit down on the weekends, you get your hair done. Mom would listen to, R&B and jazz music and would teach us about, black history, but I have always said that I identify closer to white American culture because that's what I was raised in. That's what I was raised around.
I grew up basically in all white neighborhoods, only because when we moved out here, that's all that was here. I went to all white schools, speckled with others who looked like me, but my parents, they didn't force me to read, black history books or anything like that because it was all around me. My grandparents, my parents, their friends.
I think this next question is actually for Dad. But Ahava means love 24. Asks, what did raising black daughters or biracial black daughters teach you about the placement of black women and girls in our society?
I'm probably sounding like a broken record. Never crossed my mind. They raised them as girls. I don't know. I think they're all equal. I mean, it's pretty obvious everyone has the same jobs. They progress the same. There's they're in every facet of society. So never thought about it. Like I said, I was raised them as girls.
And then the second part is, as a white parent to black girls, do you feel a responsibility to advocate for gender and racial equality?
Not really. I mean, I think, like I said, if you didn't see anybody other than white people in all these positions, then I would, but that's not the case because they're in every facet of society. So, no.
Hi, so I'm also biracial and come from a large family. My parents never taught us about race or our background people. We were just people. Also, growing up, we were around my dad's family, who was Italian, and never around my mother's, so I would identify as other when forced to answer questions about race, but they always made me uncomfortable. Did you experience anything like this growing up? To an extent, I got asked a lot of times, do you feel black? What does it feel to be
Really? Huh.
black? Which I never understood because I was like, I don't really understand the question because I just felt like me. I mean, I understand people were just trying to, they're trying to have some sort of understanding, but, so I guess, yeah, to an extent I did experience things like that, kids out of curiosity and no one else looked like me. When I went to elementary, middle school, and then first part of high school, I was one of maybe 3 or 4 other black kids, and we were all biracial, so none of us were full black, but it was pretty obvious we didn't look like everybody else. So yeah, I often got those questions a lot, like, do you feel black? What does that feel like? What do you identify as more? So, I think people were trying to see what I would answer specifically. But
Did they really ask you that stuff as kids? See, I never knew that.
Yeah,
I know, I mean, maybe you told me, but
well, it was confusing to me too because I didn't really know how to bring it up because it was never something we really talked about. So I didn't really know how to answer those questions. So I think that's like what people meant. Like, how do you guys instill that into us so that when we go out to the world and we're being bombarded by that, kind of like Selena when we came to Mesa, instead of identifying as biracial, she just fit in with the Mexican kids so that people would leave her alone about it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Whereas I didn't have that luxury because my hair was so much thicker that even when I was in last, people were like, I know you're half black, but what's the other half? Aries Wilshire asked, did your mother or father teach you that being mixed race is never better or more superior than just being one of only the black race? All the time. My mom was very adamant about that. I remember even as a kid, you would say, just you are half black, you are half white. That doesn't make you better than anybody else, but it also doesn't make you less important. So I think that's also another reason I was so comfortable as a kid, always telling people, no, I'm mixed, or I would just say I'm half black, half white. I didn't really know what the word biracial meant as a child. I just would say I'm half black, half white, but my mom never was like putting me and my sister on a pedestal. Neither did my dad, the whole being, light, bright, and basically white kind of comments that I get. They never told me and my sister that we were better than anybody else because we were only half black or because we were half white. I never really heard that until I got to maybe high school. Also, what do you feel about being mixed versus only being black? Do you think one is better than the other? No. Because every ethnicity brings their own pros to the table. I mean, if there was an issue, I get that, there is the issue of colorism of, if you're lighter, you will have more opportunities than maybe someone who's darker than you, and that has happened in many races. It happens in Indian culture, it happens in Asian cultures, So, but no, my parents have never, I have no recollection. I could even ask my sister. My parents have never told us that we were better than all black kids. Or, they would say, you're special because you're mixed because no one else around us was like that. So I think they were trying to instill some level of confidence in us so that when we do go out in the world and maybe someone would say something. But no, I don't ever remember my parents ever saying something of, we're better than everybody else because we're only half black. Desiree asks, parenting through culture clash situations, any advice? What is your advice maybe for other interracial couples who are having culture clash situations with parenting?
Well, I'll let you answer first.
Why this time? Man, this is boring and repetitive from what I'm gonna. I don't know. I just don't think it's a big deal. A cultural, you know what I mean? If you then don't marry. Maybe that's the best way to say it. If you don't want to have to raise your kids as kids, they're just kids. I mean, you know. I mean, they learn how to read, write, talk. So, you know, it's all the same. I mean, how other people judge them, I can't control that. But in my mind, I don't know. Just raised them as my kids. Same answer. It's boring, but that's what it is.
And I agree with them. They're your children. You raise them as your children. You introduce. It's like if it were an all-white family. If they were Scottish, Irish, German, you're going to bring some of that ancestry into letting them know where they come from. And that's how you would do it in a biracial situation. But you're there for them when they do face those issues. You stand up for them for who they are.
Key Martini, interesting, said, what were your parents' beliefs about disciplining you and your sister? I can answer that one. Beat them. I'm just kidding.
The beatings do help. But
Spanking was not off limits in our house, let me just say that.
yeah, anybody from CPS, you don't know me. You discipline your children to teach them right from wrong. Putting them in the corner or time out, no, that is weak. You teach them right from wrong, and if sometimes the lesson needs to be learned through the butt, do it.
What were your beliefs about disciplining?
Well, if you don't do it as a parent, the police will. Bottom line.
It's true.
That's
I don't
it.
disagree with that at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, as a kid, you're like, being spanked sucks. But it's true, though. I think that, you know, that's where discipline, your first lesson should probably come from home. It's better than being thrown in jail or getting beat on the street by somebody. 7 asks, how do your parents feel about your fiance? Do they like him? My husband is from Southeast Asia, and we have 1 child. So basically, how do you guys feel? I get this question all the time, is how you guys feel about me dating outside my race, which I was like, I don't think they care, because it's not like they dated inside their race, let's be honest.
As long as he's good to you, he's okay with us. Once he starts acting stupid, then there'll be a problem.
Yeah, there might be an issue at that point.
Nori Hicks said, when did you find out you were biracial, and how did your parents approach that? Since birth, basically.
I'm just sorry, I'm laughing.
That's like some people are just like, yeah. I mean, there's the country singer Kane Brown, who's actually biracial, had no idea he was biracial until he got called the N-word at school. Came home to his mother, and she told him that his father was black. He had no idea. So, you know, that's not how my story went. It's interesting. This is for both of you guys. Tiara asks, first question, why didn't they choose to raise your children in a more diverse neighborhood? So basically, why did we grow up where we grew up?
You go to where you want to live at. I mean, as far as that goes, I'm not going to pick a neighborhood if it's, you know, not good, so I don't care who's there as far as that goes. So, you know, we lived in smaller, predominantly white areas, so I mean, you raise your kids in the best area that you can, and it doesn't really matter. Everything else doesn't really matter.
Where we were happy, it was safe.
Except for Kalama. Kalama sucked, but go ahead.
We won't go there.
It was pretty, just the people sucked. But go ahead.
Pretty much, yeah.
Interesting.
Where we could afford to live, where we were happy, and I knew my children would be safe.
Next question. What is it like being grandparents? They said, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that your sister has children. Yes, she has 2. So.
Yes, and it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. And right now, I am enjoying that unconditional love and admiration that comes every single day.
Happened too soon, but it's all good now. I never knew people had these questions, I'll be honest. This is all new to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, because of social media, no one ever comes up to me and has ever asked me anything about this. I would raise them as human beings.
You'd
Work
be surprised. You know, people have, like I said, people have very different childhoods, you know.
Right.
They're,
Yeah.
You know, they're
Just
completely disowned by one half of their family, or
Really?
you know, yeah.
Okay, I
oh
didn't know
yeah,
that.
Dad. Oh yeah.
I'm
I
so
mean, like you
naive.
said, like this whole channel is, you know, for some, it's gonna be a wake up call for some people. You know,
Yeah.
maybe things that some people haven't thought about.
Yeah. Like I said, I know more now than I did the last 20 years. So. No clue.
Could you please do a father-daughter hair video where he does your hair? Maybe.
Oh, wow.
They're like keeping it inspirational. That is so funny.
Dad would know where to be.
Yeah, if you want it to look bad, you'll have me do it.
That's the funny part. I think
Yeah.
that's the
Oh,
point.
okay,
That's
well.
the point, Dad. they want to see what you'll do with it.
Well, you better give me some
You want to see
tutorials or
grown
something.
man cry?
I think this question's from Mom. So it's kind of like what they've asked now, but now it's kind of like they want to hear your perspective. But I'd love to know, or sorry, Lovejoy is asking. Thank you. I'm just kidding. I'd love to know how your mom dealt with having daughters who are very light-skinned. I have 3 biracial children, and my daughter looks completely white. So I'd love to hear about her experience of how she dealt with it and instilled a sense of pride in her girls. Love your channel.
I think I irritated a lot of people because I always bragged about my girls. Not so much their looks, though I did say that they're the most prettiest things ever on the planet.
That's true, though.
how well they did in school, how well they behaved, how well they were in their sports activities. I think I irritated a whole lot of people. I was, you know, my chest was bigger than any house you could walk through. And it still is. I think both my girls are beyond intelligent, gorgeous. I've always said you can make burlap look good.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, and I'll challenge anybody who says anything different about them.
Have you ever had people like, I don't know, I guess this could be my question to you guys. Have you ever encountered where people don't think you're our parent? They think you're like a nanny or something else because of how light Selena and I compared to you, or because our hair is
No
so
one
different?
has ever done that. And it's a good thing they haven't.
This question's for both of you. Tiara asks, which child do you think is more like you personality-wise?
Wow.
So who do you think is more like you, and who do you think is more like you based off personalities?
I think Selena's more like me.
I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
And you have a lot of Dad's traits. A lot.
That's not good.
What do you think, Dad?
Intense, vocal. Yeah, there's times I don't understand you or your sister as far as personality goes, but yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Oh, this question's for Dad. So Ash is asking, what's the best part about being surrounded by beautiful black women?
That would only entail your mom because you guys are half, so
Yeah.
I would just say it's fun.
It's
How's
fun.
that? I don't have a problem with it.
Allie Knight is asking, did your father ever feel left out of the family?
Nope.
As examples, I imagine that there were just some conversations that he may not have been able to be a part of, or understanding when different things were happening in America with race. Was that hurtful to you? How were you included in this conversation?
Never happened. No, no, and no. So I have no clue.
I don't think those conversations really happened until probably my YouTube channel started.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And
As
those
far
things were like for example, just like how with different race relations or
Oh.
things that I've experienced, and just trying to get not only me understanding, but also trying to, you know, my dad to understand, because you know there's just some things you haven't experienced or you haven't experienced.
Oh, I'm oblivious. I mean, and your mom used to tell me things all the time about stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? But if you're not sensitive to it or ever been through it, how would I know?
And so Ava Bright is saying, I'm wondering from a generational perspective what their experiences have been like as a couple and as parents. I have an uncle and aunt who married in the mid-60s and had 3 biracial children. My brother and sister-in-law have 3 biracial children, aged 14, 12, and 10. Each family had very different experiences. Just wondering about their experience and how they're feeling about your natural hair journey. So like we said, you know, each family's different. I think it depends, again, where you live. Just each parent's backgrounds and their experiences with growing up and stuff. So that's another reason I just really wanted to do this video, was to maybe give a different perspective, or just a perspective from this interracial family, because our story is not going to be the same as other families. But thank you, Mom and Dad, for joining in. Thank you, everyone, for sending in the questions. I know you guys have been like dying to have both my parents on camera, like since I basically started my channel.
I could think of nothing else. I learned something.
Yes.
I didn't know any of this, so.
So yeah, and you know, it's a learning experience. You know, some of these things I never had to truly think about until I got older. Again, I think that just comes with being a kid sometimes and where you grow up. Some people have to grow up faster than others. I totally get that. But I hope that this video has given you some insight, maybe a different perspective, and hopefully that you guys have learned something new. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed today's video. Please don't forget to click that subscribe button down below. Keep blooming, and I'll see you guys in the next video.